want to thank you for joining us. And I want to thank Scott Hammond for taking the time to do this. We had something more fun planned where he would come down and get to know the students a little, get to know students a little bit better, jump in a helicopter and make a day of it. So Scott, thank you for being willing to be flexible with your plans. I'll get to a brief introduction in a second, but students, just so you know, you are muted. You can unmute yourself. There's a button in the lower left corner. If you would like to ask a question, in the middle of your screen there's the bottom of the screen, in the center, there's a chat function. You can send a message directly to Scott if you have a question, or you can send that to me. This is a little bit of a reverse for what this class had been, which is no computers allowed in the class. And now, of course, we're doing the 180, which is really embracing the technology. So like I said, we're really glad to have Scott Hammond with us today. My very incomplete understanding of Scott's journey is very limited, but I do know he was CEO of Purqz, which, if I understand correctly, is a really cool loyalty program for renters. I think we'll hear a little bit more about that. Scott is the founder of an exceptionally fast-growing company called Cascade Exteriors, and we will hear a little bit more about that. He's got a partner, Kyle, who will not be joining us today, but has been involved in 4 startups with Scott, and I think we'll hear a little bit more about the 2 of them. As you all know, we're doing our best to adapt to the current environment. As far as this class goes, what we're going to try to do is keep things relatively quiet, so you're all going to be muted. If you have a question that you would like to ask Scott while he's presenting, please don't hesitate to use that chat button. You can chat directly to him. He'll get a little notification and he can answer your question. There is a reasonably good chance that if you have a question, somebody else has that same question. So Scott would like to encourage you to use that question function. We are going to finish at 12:20. I think that's all I have to say. Christina, what have I missed before we turn the time to Scott?
I think we're actually good to go. Everybody's on and we're ready.
Well, let's do a nice virtual round of applause for our speaker series guest today, Scott Hammond.
I can hear you all clapping. Thank you. And Tyler, I just want to know if I do get a rain check on that helicopter ride, just let me know that.
You got it.
Welcome, everyone. This is an interesting opportunity. It is difficult to speak without being able to see the audience, be able to see your facial expressions as we go through. I will do my best to make this exciting, informative as we go through this. Like he said, I can see the chat. If you'd like to ask a question as we go through, it makes it more interactive, helps guide me to what you want to understand and hear as we go forward. So as Tyler mentioned, I've been a part of several startups. And I think part of the message I want to start with is that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have been since 2000, and I've had a lot of successes, but a lot of failures along the way. And I think part of my message today is you can't be afraid to fail. Failure is where you're going to learn and where you're going to be prepared for the next opportunity or the next business that you do. So as you can see on the list, early on, I tried to start a company called Allotment Management. That failed. Surfbuzz.com in the middle of the .com era. 6 months into that didn't do well. It failed. Joined Healthline Systems after going back to survive and pay the bills. I worked for a company called Lanier in Atlanta and sold copiers. So I did that for 7 years, decided I really wanted to be able to be a part of my own company eventually. I joined Healthline Systems and ended up moving from Atlanta to Utah. And soon after we got here, it was headed in a bankruptcy situation. I think a lot of you know John Black. He was who I was associated with. We took that on, turned it around, did a pretty good job at that, ended up selling that a couple of years later. I worked for that company for a year, and then we started Black Ledger, which turned into Purqz. Now, Purqz is an interesting startup, but it never took off completely. It's been going on for 7, 8 years. It's successful from the standpoint of that it has profits, it pays its bills, but it wasn't that big opportunity that I've been looking forward to really grow. A couple of more on there. You see, we bought a company called Uinta Fireplace and Design, did not go well. We can talk about that. Started a medical clinic a year ago. That's been interesting with the new coronavirus and what's going on. That's actually been very helpful for our business Cascade because it's right next to it and it allows us to help take care of our employees and actually do some coronavirus testing there, which is interesting. We can talk about in a minute. But the real success and what I will focus on today is our business Cascade Stucco and Exteriors. We started that business in 2013 on a napkin over a lunch and with very little capital, and have grown that. Did 26 million last year. We're on track to do 30 million this year. So we'll focus on that. And I want to take you through the chronology of what we did and how we did it as we move forward. Again, I want to focus on Cascade. And as I go through this, there's three things I want to focus on that I think are important and what I've learned throughout my career. Number one is to surround yourself with good, smart, and honest people. I think if you can determine that at the beginning, and not a lot of times can you do that, but the success of Cascade has been, and we have two partners, and I'll explain that in just a second as well. The trust that I have with my partners, that they're good, hardworking, all have the same goal, has been very, very important. And I have a question. I'm just going to jump and get that from Benjamin. He says, what is the most valuable thing you learned from your failures? Also, what helped you keep going after your failures? Thanks, Benjamin. I think as you look back on your failures, as you do those businesses, and as long as you keep going forward and saying, okay, what is the next thing? You end up with hindsight is 2020. So I couldn't tell what I was learning in the middle of it, but as I go back, I learned several things. And I'll talk about this as we go through on what made Cascade successful, and I'll turn to what some of the things we didn't do well early on to what we're doing well now to answer that question. And what keeps you going? You got to keep paying the bills. You got to have goals. You got to be positive. So that's what helped us keep going and starting. I knew I didn't want eventually to go back and work for somebody else. I didn't want to have someone else decide whether I could be let go or not. That was for me. That was what kept me going. I wanted to be able to set my own schedule, to make my own decisions and take responsibility for both of those as we went forward. So thanks for that question. Number two, as a key to success, is to know your numbers, mind the store. Every month at Cascade, we close our books. We close them by the 5th. And by the 10th, we've had a meeting to review those numbers. What was our gross profit? What was our net profit? In our budgeting, where did we spend too much? Where do we want to cut back? Where do we want to grow? What do we want to invest in? I think a lot of times as you're going through and you're in your business, sometimes you're just moving forward, trying to keep and make decisions, and you're not taking a step back to say, are we on track for what we want to do? So in previous companies, I would say I didn't do that very well. I didn't know where we were going, that type of thing. So know your numbers, mind the store. And number three, and this is probably learned later on, and I think is crucial, and that is work in your business during working hours and on your business after hours. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me just get to that, and I'll still focus on number three. But these are my partners. Ben Probst has been a custom builder in Utah for over 25 years. He knows building inside and out. I don't. In fact, my wife will tell you that I may not know which side of the hammer to use in certain situations. I know nothing or knew nothing before we came into this business about construction. So Ben is the partner who has our license. He's the one that controls quality. And by the way, Cascade Stucco and Exteriors, what it is we do the exteriors on homes. So stucco, siding, soffit, and fascia gutters on mostly new construction. So that's what we do. Kyle, also my business partner, and I have a slide to introduce him as well, and some of the things and why it was important to surround ourselves with good people, good partners, honest people as we went forward. Ryan has a question. What time did you stop working a day job while trying to be an entrepreneur? That is an excellent, excellent question. I think we went in and out. So as I started Purqz, I was still working at a day job. And I was probably 6 months into that before it could actually sustain me and salary. We always tried to bootstrap, always tried to make sure we paid ourselves as little as possible as we started up. I'll talk about that at the beginning of Cascade and our trek going forward. But that's a really good question. That is probably the hardest thing to do when you're starting a business. How do you transition from working for someone else, making sure that you're making enough, and transitioning over? It's going to be different for everyone in your circumstances. but I would caution against raising a bunch of money to pay yourself a salary as you're going forward. Try to bootstrap, try to do and spend as little as possible as you're organically growing your business. So thanks for that question. Let me tell you about Kyle just a second. I think Kyle is very, very crucial part of us growing. He got his MBA at BYU. He was the managing director of Cougar Capital while he was in school. He scored in the 99th percentile on his GMAT score. So I think 800 is a perfect score on the GMAT. He scored a 760. And even while we were starting up Cascade to make extra money on the side, he was teaching the GMAT online and sometimes traveling to do that. So another answer to your question, Ryan. And I put these other things just to say he was a part of Blackledger, Purqz, Uinta. He's been with me this whole time. And as I told Tyler at the beginning of this, he wanted to be on. He put a little skull that said he may or may not because of that very thing. Kyle has 12 children. 11 currently because he fosters and one went home, but he has a gym in his house set up with 12 desks, kids from the age of 16 down to a newborn actually, or a 1-year-old. So his house is chaos right now, but I haven't met someone as hardworking and dedicated and committed as Kyle, both to his family and his business. So you can strike a balance there. So back to my number 3 on the keys to success, working in your business during regular hours and on your business after hours. We made a commitment early on that at least twice a week, we would normally work from 7 to 5, 8 to 5, putting out fires, making sure our business was running, go home, have dinner with the family, make sure the family was taken care of, and we would at least 2, if not 3 times a week, go back to the office at 9 and work till about 1 or 2. And that is where we were able to revolutionize Cascade, do things that no one had ever done. And that was our focus during that time. We didn't have the interruptions of all of the things we were doing while we were in our business, but we were working on our business. I'm going to walk you through the whole timeline of 2013 through 2020. I'm going to show you the revenues we had, the challenges we've had. But again, as I go through this, I think that was the key. We've thought about writing a book about Cascade and how it went along, and one of the chapters was going to be that. And if we didn't get our 2 to 3 times in a week because of something else that was going on, we committed to Saturday at 4 a.m. So we would go Saturday from 4 to 8 in the morning and then still go back and spend time with our families. Again, if there's one thing you take away of the 3, take that one thing away. Being an entrepreneur, you've got to sacrifice in order to have the big gains and the big rewards, I think, but that was key for us. So this is our evolution at the end of 2014. These were the number of houses or projects that we completed by the end of that year. We started in September of 2013, and this goes through 2019. So over that span, we've built or been a part of projects enough to have housed 36,000 people, or the total population of Cedar City. So that's exciting. It's also gratifying to know that we're a part of building and helping people with their homes as they go forward. Okay, so Cascade evolution. I'm going to give you a little bit of history. Ben and I were the ones that actually started Cascade. Kyle was there. He was working for the LDS Church at the time we started it and kept that because we couldn't pay everybody at the beginning, but he was consulting on the side, deciding whether he wanted to be a partner in this particular business as we move forward. So he was there from the beginning, but didn't actually start or come and work on it at the very, very beginning. He joined in 2014. Ben was a friend of mine, lived in my neighborhood, called me one day after a canyoneering trip to Zion's and said, "Hey, I want to start a stucco company. You want to do that?" And I was still in the middle of Purqz, and I said, "Well, what do you need me for? I don't know construction." And he said, "Well, can you help run the back office? Can you do the QuickBooks? Can you do the licensing? I don't like to do any of that. Can you do the APAR, all that?" I said, "Yeah, I can do all that." He said, "Just start it with me. I have some equipment and we can get started in some relationships." And had kind of a model, and I said, "Okay, let's give it a shot." So in 2013, September, we started, and we started in this building in Linden. If you see right here in this corner, this was our office. We had one small office here. Actually, these three windows for our offices that we rented out. We did plans manually in this office and did everything else in this particular office right here. In 2014, we moved here to this office, also in Linden, and we had a 10 by 10 office in this, right inside this door, this first office to the right. We just had one office. The rest of this was an importing company that Ben knew, and they rented out this one office. And the reason we did is because back here there was a yard, and they rented us the back corner yard, their yard that they weren't using, and that's where we put our scaffolding and some of our trucks and equipment as we were trying to grow. We had 2 desks in that 10 by 10 office. We had a printer, and people would come for payroll, and it was manually, and so we had 20 or 30 employees by that time, and they'd come and we'd do everything by hand. I think back to those days fondly, but it was also very, very challenging trying to make sure we made ends meet there. Later, and I just want to show you these pictures to give you an idea, in 2015, end of 15 or 16, we found this building. It had been abandoned for 5 years. The owner of it didn't need to or didn't want to sell it. It was called Gold Tip Drive. It was an aero manufacturing plant. And so this was very, very old warehouse. The inside offices were uninhabitable. The carpet was all messed up. But we contacted them and asked them if they would sell. It wasn't even on the market. And we were able to make a great offer on this particular building. And then this was a separate transaction owned by a separate person. And so we thought, wow, if we could get this building and this acreage back here, we would really have something, because we could overlook the yard. And this is where we could keep our scaffolding as we grew. So later, and this is what it looks like today, we renovated that building. We fixed the exterior, redid the stucco. The inside looks absolutely amazing. And you can get a little glimpse here, but if all of our scaffolding were to come back today, it would not fit in that 1 acre yard, even stacked high. There's no possible way it would fit in there. So now that we're at 26 going on 30 million, we've almost outgrown even this building here. Okay, so 2013, we're going to go through each year and talk about what we did, what was going on. So in 2013, I applied for the license. We went out and just talked to some construction companies, asked them if they needed subcontractors. We were only doing stucco at the time. We added siding, soffit and fascia and gutters later. So Ivory Homes is the #1 residential home builder in Utah and had been for a long time. And I've always been of the mindset, go big or go home. So we went and contacted them, and they had in that particular month a big challenge of they didn't have enough contractors to finish their stucco homes. And so we met with them and they said, if you can finish these 5 homes before the end of the year and hit our deadline, we will approve you as one of our contractors moving forward. So I remember in December, it was a particularly bad winter, carrying 80-pound stucco buckets, 1 in each hand, from my truck up into the houses, wondering what in the heck I had gotten myself into. I remember also earlier on that year, we ended up doing a rock job, 1 rock job for fireplace inside a new home, not knowing what I was doing, overseeing this job. It was crazy, but we kept moving forward. We bootstrapped everything. At the end of 2013, including those homes we did for Ivory, we did revenues of $135,000 that year. 2014, between Ben and I, and because we hadn't made a lot of money to that point, and we didn't have a lot of credit, those types of things, we needed to figure out how to keep the business going because we didn't have a lot of funding. We knew we didn't want to raise money. I knew I didn't want to. If we could get through it without raising money, we would benefit on the back end. So I went to Ivory and said they would pay. So as you finished a home, their normal pay schedule was you finished a home, you let the invoice sit for 2 weeks, and then they would pay you within 30 days. Well, that did not work at all. So I went to the purchasing manager and said, I'll get these homes done for you, but I need to be paid in 24 hours. So we would finish a home. I would let him know it was finished. I would drive to Salt Lake and I would pick up a check for that particular home. That was an amazing lift for us to be able to survive, to keep going, and to keep cash flow moving and keep the business going. Kyle joined in 2014. He had some options for some debt funding and was able to get us more funding in order to keep the operations going. But we grew quite a bit with Ivory that year. Everything was still on paper. We would manage on paper. We would do payroll on paper. We would have these folders that we would hand to the teams that had the plans and what they were going to get paid. Still very challenging. At the end of 2014, we had $3 million in revenue. We found a technology, you may know it or have seen it, called Smartsheet. It helped us tremendously start to move to digital, to do some scheduling. My brother-in-law worked for D.R. Horton as a land acquisition, and they are the #1 home builder in the United States by far. I think number 2 and 3 combined don't match D.R. Horton. Nationwide, they're number 3 in Utah as far as number of buildings. And I think I skipped past it, but we added Edge Homes, which is the number 2 builder in Utah, and we added Horton in 2015, the 3rd largest builder in Utah. We moved to that office in Linden. We were growing so fast, the capital was really important. We needed more scaffolding. Scaffolding was incredibly expensive. We searched all the time on KSL and looking for scaffolding, and we found a company that was going out of business or selling or something after about 20 years of doing stucco in California, and he had a yard full of scaffolding. So we rented some trucks, drove down there, got scaffolding at about 10 to 20 cents on the dollar, loaded it up, brought it back so that we could continue to grow. That was our biggest need on the capital side, was trucks and scaffolding. Once we had that, we could continue to grow and add. So at the end of 2015, we finished with $5.2 million in revenue. Another question, do we have an emergency fund for your business? I'll get to that question as we talk about what's going on with the coronavirus and the challenges we had in 2019. But thank you for the question, and keep the questions coming. I appreciate it. I think 2016 was probably a game-changing year for us, and we made some really good decisions. One of those decisions was to move to TrackVia. Smartsheet was good, but it didn't have the database technology and capability that TrackVia had. So we used this software. It's a cloud-based database tracking system. Today, it does all of our scheduling, all of our payroll. We can look up at any time, any house we've done in the past, and I can tell you what time the stucco started, what time the siding started, because our teams on their smartphones will go to the job, sign in, sign out. I can pretty much run the entire schedule remotely from here because of moving to the database. Question is, when did you actually pay yourself, and how did you get through the times when you were putting money back into the business? In Cascade, I had still had another company. I'm still running Purqz and that particular business. So I had some revenue coming in, but we did start paying ourselves conservatively at the beginning. When I say conservatively, we would see what our needs were. We would pay $500, $1,000. And as we would have a profitable job, we might pay ourselves a little bit more, but then we would still put right back into the business. That's a really good question. It's a challenge as you try to figure that out. You have to have money. You have to put money in your business. In fact, we did have someone else who started early on in the business, and he left because he said, I can't go without having a full paycheck, and I won't. And if you won't pay me in full, then I'm out. And I said, you're in a decision right now. And anyway, he kicks himself today, but he left early on. A question about bootstrapping. What does bootstrapping mean? Bootstrapping, and I don't know where the term comes from, but it's absolutely figuring out how to do things for the least expensive way you possibly can without raising money. So if you're bootstrapping a business, you're doing what we did. An example of bootstrapping is not taking the norm, which is I'm going to pay you in 30 days, and figuring out a way to get that revenue in quicker. So a key on the bootstrapping was going to him and saying, will you pay us 24 hours after we're done? Now we've realized the profit of that particular job immediately and putting that part of the business and being able to pay us a little bit. Cash flow is absolutely critical in any business as you're going forward. So that's what bootstrapping means. Question is, how far did you further your education, and what's your opinion on furthering school after your undergrad? Very, very good question, Bernice. I think it's Bernice. I hope I pronounced that right. That's going to be individual. I did not go on to get my master's degree in business. I felt like I kind of did that through hard knocks and through all the companies I did. But adding Kyle, who did and who understood that, is part of my keys to success, of surrounding yourself with good, smart, honest people. So I don't particularly believe that you have to have all of those things, your own education going forward, but you should surround yourself with smarter and better people than yourself as you go forward. That's my mantra. That's how I was able to do it. That being said, I think education is critical. If you can, and you can get your business, you're going to understand those things moving forward. I feel like I got my MBA in the field and in my businesses going forward, but I did not get my MBA. Super good question. Thank you for that. Okay. So I talked about TrackVia. Also in 2016, for the first time, I went to D.R. Horton because they would take a master planned community, and let's say they were going to build 500 homes and 30 townhomes and 10 condos all in this master planned community. They would say, I'm going to award this to 4 or 5 different companies. I went to them and said, why don't you award the entire thing to us? And they said, well, we don't want to put our eggs all in one basket. What if you can't keep up on schedule? I convinced them that we could, even though I didn't know we could at the time. I convinced them that we could if they would partner with us in a real way, if they would put a container, and we put an 18 by 10 foot container with all the supplies that we would need to do all of the exteriors. And the reason I said that is I could create some production models if I could have all of the houses in the street instead of worrying about which house I was going to do, and also having other employees on the same street. I could do that. I convinced them. They agreed. In 2016, they awarded us a subdivision or a master plan community called Legacy Farms in Saratoga Springs. And we really took off then. They were glad they made the decision. We've been able to keep up on all our schedules. We added other national builders. We bought the building I showed you in the picture, added an acre yard. At the end of 2016, we had revenues of $9.3 million. In 2017, we had a competitor that was just to the south of us who was about the same size as us. And he hadn't done and put all the things, was doing everything still paper, very struggling. His business, every time he would grow, would hit a ceiling. And we developed a great relationship with him. And he said, look, I want out. I want to go do something else. We acquired that business, which allowed us to double. We went completely digital, all scheduling, all payroll, smartphone. We renovated our building, as you saw in the picture. We went from 9 to 16 million in 2017. In 2018, we were awarded one of the emerging elite fastest growing companies in Utah. We were the fastest growing and the emerging elite category is those with 5 years of tenure or less, or 5 years since they started. And we were the fastest growing construction company during those 5 years. We implemented a good to great continuous improvement. And at the end of 2018, we decided, wow, we're doing so great. Let's acquire another company. We acquired Uinta Fireplace and Design up in Salt Lake. We had revenues of $25.3 million. That's our award from 2018. Picture of us, Mark Eaton there in the background. 2019 was particularly challenging. I mean, if you can see right here on the bottom part of the screen, we only grew $1 million from 2018 to 2019. We had some unforeseen challenges. 2019 was a particularly hard, cold, wet winter. For our business working outside, we have to tent and heat houses, but there were several storms, things that made it was almost impossible to work. We had tons of snow. We also, during that time, we had some internal theft. We had employees that decided that it was going to, between the three of them, steal from the company. I won't get into all the details of that, but because we were minding the store and we were in our business, we found out right away and were able to make that transition. And it ended up being a really good thing once we solved that problem, because we have 325 employees, 3 that were stealing from us. And to get them out and establish principles within the company and share that with everybody else redoubled everyone's commitment to the success of our company as we move forward. The company we bought, Uinta, did not go well. We hired someone else to manage it and it didn't go well. In fact, we had to sell that at the end of 2019. We lost quite a bit of money in that. And so the reason I'm bringing these up just in our growth pattern was that we feel like we took our eye off the ball a little bit. We thought we were going to be able to just grow and just add companies and that they'd all be successful. But we didn't focus on the three things I talked about, and that didn't do well. In 2019, we did make a decision through all of these challenges that we weren't going to go outside of our core area in Utah County and in South Salt Lake County. We were doing projects in Park City that were difficult, and we were up in Davis County, and custom homes do not match our model. So we reduced all of those. We did $26 million with just 8 clients, just because of the volume that they do, and everything is going much better. And now we're at a place where we can scale and now go to 30 million and beyond. And we did some extra work on our scheduling and things to help us to do homes faster in order to be able to add more volume. See, we have a couple questions coming in. What did you do to make your business more scalable so that you didn't hit ceilings? The most important thing we did on the scaling side, and the way we figured it out, was working on our business after hours, was to make everything database, everything digital. And we would ask ourselves, what are the bottlenecks? What are the things that are stopping us? And then we would solve those problems. And those conversations happened between 9 at night and 1 in the morning. And in fact, to show how much we believe in that, we actually have a studio apartment inside that warehouse, has fully furnished apartments, so that when we're there at 1 or 2, one of us can stay there. If we have meetings early in the next morning, we sleep right at the office. So again, that's my biggest takeaway. But using technology and asking yourselves, because it'll be different from whatever business you're doing, what are your bottlenecks? What's stopping you from growing? And answer those questions. It's hard to answer those between 8 and 5 when you're getting interrupted, but when you have time to sit down and solve scale problems outside of the normal business hours, you'll come up with those solutions. For us, it was a database scheduling. And by the way, that has really helped us currently with the challenges that we have now. We can run our business remotely without a problem because of the things we did in 18 and 19 to scale. No one needs to come into the office for anything. All their information's on their phone as they move forward. So thanks for that question. Sebastian, was Cascade your first experience with construction? Absolutely. I had no idea I would be in a construction business, period. I know nothing about construction. I found out after I started construction that I actually have stucco on my own. I didn't even know what stucco was, really. I just never paid attention. So yes, construction was my first company. And I think the principles of entrepreneurship apply to any industry, and it'll be important that you have passion around your doing, but you don't necessarily have to have that experience as long as you are surrounding yourself with good people who know the important things about that business that you need to know. Ben has 25 years of experience. Any question about warranty, how we should do things, he handles all of the construction side, and he's amazing at it. He's not amazing at scaling and growing businesses, which Kyle and I are now, as we've learned through. And so that makes that a good partnership, but good question. At what point did you think you could have a big hit on your hands? And at what point did you know you had a big hit with Cascade? I would say pretty early on, probably at the end of 2014, going into 15, as we were just overcoming some of those early stages, I thought we could have something here simply because the demand and where we were, and we were in the best place for construction in all of the United States and in Utah County. In 2016, I knew we had it, and I was willing to commit every extra hour that I had to Cascade because I knew that as we grew it, no one else could do what we could do in this particular business. And that's maybe another point. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we want to find the new invention, the new thing, something that no one else has done. Another key is if you can find something that someone else has done, but it's an archaic process, and revolutionize it and change it. In construction, it's full of the good old boys who are really good at construction, but maybe don't know how to scale businesses. And so we found that in exteriors. They're really good at putting the stucco on the wall, but we do about 120 homes a month currently. And to be able to do that, and we only have one scheduler, and that's me. I schedule everything every day. It takes me 2 to 3 hours during the day to get all those questions answered, but those things early on were what allowed us to grow and really move. What are your goals for Cascade for the upcoming years? That is a great question. Our current strategy is long-term hold. We think over the next 10 years, we can grow and continue to be the best exterior company and expand into, we have done commercial projects, but we're going to expand into that. If we expand even more, we started and did some roofing early on and got out of it to focus on just the exterior, but it's very easy for us now that on what we've learned to add different products on the house and roofing. So we have had thoughts in the past of selling and what that would be, but I want to continue in this. For me personally, my passion, I speak Spanish. We have 325 employees. The 95% of them have Spanish as their first language. And I have a huge passion around helping them and those families as they work for us, turning around and benefiting them. I think that's why labor is not a problem for us, is because they know how much we care about them and how much we focus on making sure and are honest with them and always give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their pay or benefits. We work really, really hard. We have very little turnover, people leaving, but we have a really long line of guys that want to work here because they hear how we treat people. And so for me, I have a passion around helping them particularly, which is help the business. What are your short-term goals for 2020 and long-term goals for the business? Let me see on my slide here. So I think this is my last slide anyway. Short-term goals for 2020, we're just finishing out of our 2019 goals and what we've accomplished there, which was to reduce our clients, to only do production, really scale down. Our short-term goals for 2020 is to increase our net profits. We're between 6 and 8% on net profit. We want to get 8 to 10, and we think we can do that fairly easily for this next year. 30 million is our revenue goal for 2020. And I do have on here the coronavirus impacts, and I've kind of touched on it a little bit. Construction was named an essential business by the governor in Utah, so we're incredibly grateful for that. And our business hasn't slowed down. In fact, it's increased quite a bit as those in construction move forward and still doing the social distancing and things that they need to do. But we are looking very closely and making sure that we do think we'll probably be impacted by just the overall economy and people's ability to buy new homes. And so we're watching that closely and making sure that we're able, but we're in a financial situation place where we've been very disciplined in making sure that we could handle problems during this year. And so our goal is to make sure that our employees are taken care of and that we're able to move forward and that we can still service our clients. Okay, I think we're 2 minutes away from closing. That's my Q&A. Any other questions, or Tyler, anything else you want me to cover?
Well, I just thank you for being so responsive to all the questions that have come in. Why don't we just leave this open to anyone else who wants to ask one last final question?
Hey, Scott, do you have any daily habits that you try to do like every day, like waking up at a certain time, working out, anything like that?
Excellent question. I think the biggest discipline that again, going back to that number 3, and I really want you guys to take away from that, the discipline that I have is that ever since we started, I work on the business starting at 7, and we go till about 5, and then 5 to 9 is family time and whatever else obligations I have there. And then 2 to 3 days a week, it's 9 to 1 working on the business. I would say from a discipline standpoint, that's the most important thing. To be honest, I'm not good at the exercise thing. So I should probably make that a 2020 goal and be better at that. But from a discipline standpoint and the way it works with the business, I would say that's the most important thing. Great question. What was my major in college? I'm going to make everybody guess. My major in college was psychology. And I thought when I was in college that I always knew I was going to go into sales. And I figured if I was going to go into sales, psychology was a good major. It also had the least amount of hours required at the time. I won't mention that. I minored in Spanish, but I majored in psychology.
Well, I think that's probably all of our time. Scott, I can't thank you enough for being willing to meet with the class this way and to be willing to adjust last minute. So thank you for your flexibility. Thank you for your outstanding expertise and for your humility in discussing a couple of failures and really just an outstanding triumph of a business in Cascade. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I appreciated all your feedback and listening.
Let's do one last round of muted applause. Great. Thanks so much, Scott.
Okay, thank you.